The rain had been falling for hours, turning the narrow country road into a ribbon of mud and puddles. Ethan Brooks wiped the grease from his hands with an old shop rag as he prepared to close his tiny roadside garage. Business had been slow all week, and he was already wondering how he'd pay next month's rent. Just as he reached for the light switch, a silver luxury SUV rolled into the parking lot, sputtered twice, and died completely. Ethan sighed. "One last job," he muttered. He grabbed his toolbox and jogged through the rain toward the stranded vehicle. Water soaked through his jacket within seconds. The driver's window slowly rolled down. A woman wearing an elegant navy coat leaned out, frustration written across her face. "My engine just quit," she said apologetically. "Every repair shop I called is closed." Ethan nodded. "Let's take a look." Without really studying her face, he lifted the hood. Rain poured over the engine compartment while he worked quickly, checking connections and testing the battery. "Looks like your alternator belt snapped," he called over the storm. "You're lucky you coasted in here." "I've been lucky all my life," she replied with a small laugh. Something about her voice made Ethan pause. It sounded familiar. He looked up. For a brief second, their eyes met. Her hazel eyes. The same warm smile, except older, more confident. His heart skipped. No, it couldn't be. She stared at him just as intensely. "Ethan," he froze. Only one person had ever said his name exactly like that. Emily. The years seemed to disappear between them. Emily Carter. His high school crush. The girl he'd secretly loved for 4 years. The girl who had vanished after graduation without a goodbye. She smiled in disbelief. "I can't believe it's really you." Ethan laughed awkwardly. "I almost didn't recognize you. You've changed. So have you." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The rain filled the silence. Finally Ethan cleared his throat. "Well, your car still needs fixing." She laughed again. "Some things never change. You always helped everyone before yourself." As Ethan replaced the broken belt with one from his spare inventory, memories flooded back. The late-night study sessions. Walking her home after football games. The science fair where they'd almost kissed before someone interrupted them. He had wanted to tell her how he felt on graduation day. But she'd disappeared before he found the courage. 20 years of unanswered questions still lingered. After 30 minutes, the engine roared back to life. Emily stepped out into the rain despite his protests. She looked at him carefully. "You still work with your hands." "It's honest work." She smiled softly. "I always admired that." Ethan handed her the invoice. She barely glanced at it before placing several $100 bills into his hand. "This is way too much," he protested. "It's not for the repair." He frowned. "It's for stopping when everyone else wouldn't." Then she hesitated. Her smile faded into something far more emotional. She looked directly into his eyes. "Tell me something honestly." He waited. Her voice was barely above a whisper. For several seconds, neither Ethan nor Emily said a word. The rain continued to fall around them, but neither seemed to notice. It was as if the years between high school and this unexpected reunion had vanished in an instant. Emily was the first to break the silence. "You haven't changed as much as you think," she said with a gentle smile. Ethan chuckled. "I think the gray hair says otherwise." She laughed softly. "Maybe, but you're still the same Ethan who would stop everything to help someone." He looked down, slightly embarrassed. "Some habits are hard to break." Emily glanced around the small garage. It wasn't fancy, just a modest building with worn tools, an old coffee machine, and family photos hanging on the wall. Everything about it reflected Ethan's hard-working life. "You own this place?" she asked. "I do," he replied. "Started with one toolbox and a borrowed lift about 12 years ago. It hasn't made me rich, but it pays the bills." She nodded with genuine admiration. "I'm proud of you." Those simple words meant more to Ethan than she could possibly know. Back in high school, he had always felt invisible. Emily had been one of the most popular girls in school, captain of the debate team, honor student, and loved by everyone. Ethan had been the quiet kid who spent more time fixing cars than attending parties. "I heard you left right after graduation," Ethan finally said. Emily's smile faded. "I didn't want to." He frowned. "My father was transferred to another state the very next morning. Everything happened so fast that I couldn't even say goodbye." Ethan looked away. "I waited for you." "I know. You knew." Emily nodded slowly. "My best friend told me later that you came looking for me after the ceremony." Ethan sighed. "I wanted to tell you something that day." She met his eyes. "I know what it was." His heart skipped. "You knew." She smiled sadly. "I wasn't the only one keeping a secret." Before Ethan could respond, She reached into her purse and carefully removed an old, slightly faded photograph. It showed the two of them at the senior science fair, standing beside the project they had built together. "I've carried this for 20 years, she admitted. Ethan stared at the picture in disbelief. "You kept that?" "I kept a lot of memories." The words stirred emotions he had buried long ago. He remembered the afternoons they spent studying together, the jokes they shared, and the countless moments when he almost confessed his feelings but lost the courage. Emily looked at him quietly. "Do you remember the night after the science fair?" Ethan smiled faintly. "We walked home in the rain because your car wouldn't start." She laughed. "And you spent 2 hours fixing it. You bought me hot chocolate afterward. I wanted an excuse to spend more time with you." Ethan's eyes widened. "You did." Emily nodded. "I thought you'd figured that out." For the first time in 20 years, they both laughed together, not because anything was funny, but because they realized how much time had been lost to misunderstandings, missed chances, and words left unspoken. Their laughter slowly faded, replaced by a comfortable silence neither of them wanted to end. The rain had softened to a light drizzle, and the parking lot reflected the warm lights from Ethan's garage. Emily looked around the shop once more. "It's exactly how I imagined your future," she said. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Really? You always loved fixing things. Back in high school, while everyone else dreamed about expensive cars, you cared more about helping people keep the ones they already had." He smiled modestly. "I guess some dreams stay the same." Emily walked toward a workbench covered with neatly arranged tools. A faded wooden plaque hung above it. "If you can help someone today, do it." She ran her fingers gently across the edge of the bench. "You still live by this?" "Every day." She nodded, clearly impressed. "You know, after I left, I tried looking for you." Ethan looked surprised. "You did, several times. What happened?" Emily sighed. "My father changed our phone numbers when we moved. Social media wasn't what it is now, and after college I was constantly traveling for work. Every time I thought I was getting close to finding you, another lead disappeared." Ethan leaned against the workbench. "I searched for you too." Emily looked up. "I even drove past your old house. Once. My parents sold it years ago. I found that out." For a moment, they simply looked at each other, both realizing how close they had come to reconnecting over the years. Emily finally smiled. "I suppose life wasn't ready for us yet." Before Ethan could answer, thunder rumbled faintly in the distance. He glanced toward her SUV. "You should probably get going before the weather gets worse." She nodded but made no move toward the driver's door. Instead, she asked softly, "Are you married?" The question caught him off guard. He shook his head. "I was engaged once. It didn't work out. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago." He hesitated before asking, "What about you?" Emily looked down at the wedding ring she wasn't wearing. "I was married." The sadness in her voice was unmistakable. "My husband passed away 4 years ago." Ethan's expression softened. "I'm so sorry, Emily." She offered a grateful smile. "Thank you." A quiet silence settled between them again. Finally, Emily reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. She handed it to Ethan. He looked at it, then looked back at her in disbelief. The card revealed that she was the CEO of one of the largest automotive companies in the state. Ethan blinked. "So, you're the one running Carter Automotive?" Emily laughed. "I've been running it for 6 years. He shook his head in amazement. "And here I was charging the CEO for an alternator belt." "I would have been disappointed if you hadn't," she replied. "You always believed everyone should be treated the same." She took a deep breath before asking one final question. "Ethan, would you have dinner with me tomorrow?" He smiled, feeling something he hadn't felt in decades, hope. Without hesitation, he answered, "I'd like that." As Emily drove away into the rainy night, Ethan stood outside his little garage, watching the taillights disappear down the road. He couldn't help but wonder if fate had finally decided to give them the second chance they had both unknowingly waited 20 years to receive.